Excuse me. I think we're live. It usually takes a couple of minutes for us to go live, but anyway, so here we are. We are live. Who are we? We promised this. We've been promising this for months, actually. We've been promising to do the Brits, the British show, or the three old ladies, the three old Brits, or however we want to call it. I'm going to sing in a minute. We're going to be singing the, that old song, "Oh dear, what can the matter be?" Those of you who are not British probably are wondering what is she talking about, three old ladies. But anyway, here we are. Not Kay and Kay are not as old as I am. Now, this is our new show called Cracking Up. What does cracking up mean? Well, in my country, I have to say, if you're cracking up, it means that you're laughing so hard you're going to pee pants. But we've got Kay. And then we've got K, and then in between the two Ks, we've got RA. So we thought kRAk, crack. See, we're trying to be smart about this. I'm already cracking up. So we're calling it Cracking Up. A lot of you wanted to know, when you've seen us on before, sometimes you've seen the three of us together. Sometimes you've seen us just, maybe two of us together. And a lot of you wanted to know, who are these women, and what are they to Rosemary, and what are they doing with Rosemary, and what is the relationship between them, and so on and so forth. So we just thought, because we often are together privately, we're often together, we're often nattering, we're often chattering. What we are always doing whenever we get together is we are cracking up. We laugh and laugh and laugh. So we thought you might like to get to know us all a little bit better. And I know that many of you know me, of course, you know me. But there is one person who does want to join in. It's really the three of us, but I do have Gravel, my spirit guide, who is standing next to us. I think he's there making sure that we're going to behave, or maybe he's just, going to sort of help us out here a little bit. Anyway, there will be the chat room. You will have a chance to get to ask questions. We'd like the questions to be relevant to the show. So I don't want any questions from anybody saying, can you see something for me? Or can you tell me something? This is just a fun show. And we thought, hey, it's nearly Christmas time. So we thought, why not? Now, I know that the 2Ks have Christmas trees and decorations and so on. I made a slight effort. Those of you who were on last week with me can see I've still got Santa Claus behind me. He happens to be a Scottish Santa Claus with a wonderful kilt and bagpipes and all the rest of it. That's my effort for Christmas, because I shan't be here for Christmas. Right, moving on. Okay, we have Kay and we have Kay. Now, they don't know. When I say, okay, Kay, oh gosh. When I say, let me do that again. All right, Kay, can you tell us a little bit about how you met me, or whatever it is you want to say? They're going to look and say, oh, do you mean me? No, what do you mean me? It could be confusing. So I'm going to sort of give them little sort of nicknames here. So Kay-otic or KK?
Ooh.
Can you wave? Put your hand up. So everybody knows Kay-otic, which one you are. And she is chaotic from time to time. We are very chaotic when we get together. And we're going to have, Kay, can you think of something I can, KB?
Call me.
What? What?
Something you can call me.
Yeah, KB. I'll call you KB.
KB.
Only when when we're all talking together, just so you'll sort of know who I'm talking to. So all right. So I think what I'd like to do is I've already introduced the both of you. I'll say a tiny bit about my knowledge of you, but then I'm going to ask you, perhaps you'd like to say how we met, and perhaps you'd like to add something to it, whatever you want to talk about. This is a free show, anything and everything we want. Right. So Kay-otic, I always think of her as Kong Kay, so that's Kay. Maybe I should have called you Kay. All right, so Kay is when I'm referring to the people, which Kay you're talking about us. Okay. Well, that's where no.
Oh,
dear.
hello. Where's she gone?
Rosemary's internet is just cut out, so we'll wait for her to come back in, but maybe you guys can take a chance
Okay,
and
Kay-otic.
have a conversation.
Do you want to carry on, Kay-otic? Oh, she's here.
Well, I can. Oh, good. Saved by the
What
bell.
says anybody there?
Yeah.
All right. For some reason or another, I keep cutting out. There we are. Back in. Was I freezing there a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right. So I'm not quite sure what we can do about it, but we should carry on, I think. Shall we carry on? Yes, we'll carry on.
We'll
All right.
fill in for you.
It is good. Whenever you lose me, just keep talking.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to KB first. KB, do you want to say
Hello.
whatever you want to say?
Yes. I met Rosemary when in 1982.
Oh gosh.
When I was going to see her as this wonderful medium that I'd never seen or at that point really heard of. And
so how did you know I was a wonderful woman then?
Well, this woman that I was going with knew you well and said, come with me.
Oh, okay.
And so I did. And we arrived. I had my sitting. It was all very spectacular and strange. And I kept going back periodically. I sent my husband, my mother, my auntie, my grandmother, in fact, the whole family. and
how was that?
Oh, that was like stirring a hornet's nest. It was good. It was brilliant. And I just wanted to find out more and more, and so kept going back, and nearly 40 years later, I'm still coming back. So that's very, very, very straightforward, really.
So you basically had a consultation with me, and who
came through?
Who was it who came through? Can you remember?
My grandfather.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yes.
So was it sort of is that what when you came to see me and you didn't know anything about me, obviously, was that what you expected?
Oh yeah, I wasn't surprised. I felt very easy with it. I wasn't surprised. In fact, we went into the village to find out where you lived because she couldn't remember where you lived. And we went to the post office, and the man there knew straight away who you were. And I didn't feel any worries about it. I felt very easy and straightforward and enjoyed every minute of it. And it was just what I thought it would be, strangely enough.
Okay.
It wasn't for the rest of my family initially, but it was for me.
Well, I just want to point out to people that I know your family very well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
After 40 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Kay-otic. Kay, darling, do you want to say how you came about finding me and what happened, or whatever you want to say?
Right. Well, it was in 1988, and I actually heard about you through my ex-husband's niece, who went to school with Kay. And they were at school together, and there was a lot going on at the time in my life, and she was telling me that there was this amazing lady, and I thought, well, I could do with a few answers. So I also went for a sitting, and that's how I first met you. And then we went abroad, and then I came back the following year, as did my husband. Yeah. And then you came out to stay with me. And at that time, I'd known you all of 3 hours.
Wow.
I began to wonder what I was doing at the time. I hope we get on, because you're here for 6 weeks.
Crikey.
So what you're saying, basically is you invited a stranger to go and stay with you.
Well, I think on the second time we met, I'd asked you whether you'd ever worked abroad, because there was a centre in Hong Kong called the Vital Life Centre, and they used to have people, astrologers, psychics, all different kinds of people, and I wondered whether it was something you'd be interested in going via them. But when I spoke to them, they weren't. They said, well, we have somebody like her coming at that time. And I thought, I don't think you do, but never mind. They said, well, she could do the healing side, because we've got a psychic coming at that time. And then it didn't work, because they wanted you to pay a portion of what you got for healing. And they couldn't understand that you didn't charge for healing. So their portion would be nothing. And so in the end, decided that, you know, I spoke to Peter, and he was happy for you to come. But as I say, it was only when you were on the way that I sat and thought, gosh, I've only known this woman 3 hours. I do hope we get on.
I love that. I think that's great. You must have known, Kay. You must have known it would all work out, mustn't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we've lost her again.
She's gone walkies. Oh, she's gone to powder her nose. I don't think. Anyway, so, oh, here she is again. Good.
Is the weather bad where you are? Because I know sometimes storms can affect.
No.
Oh, right.
Nothing. Everything's as it is. So I've no idea. I'm wondering, Chris, if you came off altogether, that make a difference, and I can connect with you on my on FaceTime.
No, that's
Do
not
you
the
think
issue. No, it has nothing to do with it. You just
Okay, all right.
sometimes you're getting a weak signal and it drops.
Well, it's weird because I'm also frozen, you know, so I don't know if I'm coming across as being frozen, sort of, you know, but anyway, it is what it is. So do we have anybody watching, Chris, or is this just us on our own?
Oh no, you have people watching. You all know, at least I'm pretty sure you all know Gary from upper state New York, and he's saying good evening, ladies.
Yeah.
You have Jennifer on from Florida. You've got a couple of different Lori's, different spellings. Star Child's on. A couple of people from Italy. And let's see who else. Cheryl.
Oh, okay. Hi. Let's not worry about one yet. I'm just wondering if anybody's complaining that we keep cutting out.
No.
And I'm sort of frozen. But anyway, let's carry on. So Kay, did you finish what you wanted to say?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give you. You've said how we met. I'm going to give you my memories of how we met, and you know, and then I think we should just talk about how we sort of became friends. So first, if I'm talking to KB, who you know, whatever it was, 1980, to see me. I mean, it's hard to think back to that time. It's really, it's
It is hard to think back to that time because I was only 55, 65, 75. I was only in my mid-20s, and 2 young daughters, married to a farmer.
or if I should just carry on talking, or what I should do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm still frozen. It's weird because I'm looking at myself and I'm talking, and then I see myself talking afterwards. Obviously, we've just got a
keep
really
talking.
lousy connection. So I'm okay. That's what I'm going to do. So I remember, Kay, when you came to see me the first time, and I do believe, and maybe it wasn't the first time, but at some point in the early days, you would always wear dungarees. And if people don't know what dungarees are, sort of denim pants with a bib, and it was, and you were young and vibrant and sort of full of life at that time. And also at that time, you only had at that time you only had 2 children. You had 2 girls.
Yes.
Yes. Jessica was still to be born, which was and that's a whole other story. We might talk about that later. Anyway, but I remember you coming, and I do remember that that you were young, you were vibrant, you were full of fun, but you also were sort of at that time going through a confusing period in your life. Let's say that's all I'm going to say about that. It's not for me to talk about, but at some point after that first time, I remember inviting you to come with me to see a friend of mine who was a healer at the time, and you came with me to his house, and there were quite a few people there. There were quite a few of his patients there, and I remember giving healing. I don't remember if I gave healing to you personally, but I remember the drive there in the car, you asking lots and lots of questions, and then I remember it on the drive back in the car, and you asking even more questions. And so I think at that point, or around about that time, was when you decided that maybe you would like to know more about stuff, and rather than coming to me just because you needed help or guidance or what have you, you started coming to me because you were at that point very, very interested in becoming a student. Do you remember that?
I remember feeling very interested in what was going on and didn't know why. I didn't know why, and I wanted to know why I was interested. It was as if I had something to unravel, and I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know what was going on. But I did feel compelled to find out, and that was what it was. It was a compulsion to find out.
Which was, are you saying, which was why you became a student?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Okay. And I do have I don't know, Kay, if you know this, but when I remember you coming to see me with a friend, I don't really remember what happened in that first time that you came to see me. Can you remember who came through to talk to you?
Which Kay are you talking to now?
You, I'm sorry.
Oh, right. No, I actually came on my own the first time.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I came on my own.
Can you remember who connected with you?
I remember you were a long time before you could connect with anybody. And it was, you started and you kept saying things that I couldn't recognize. And you did say, you may have to go home and come back another time if we're not going to get a link. And then suddenly you started saying things and you said, this doesn't make sense to me, but actually it started to make sense to me.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure who we'd connected with at that point, because there was no, I'm talking to so-and-so. But the time that I did, the first time when you acknowledged who it was you'd said about talking to young David. And you said, but you think of young David as being a boy, but he's not, he's a man, but he's not an old man. And then I realized that was my brother. And you said he died under, you know, strange circumstances. And so I knew then exactly who it was that was talking to me. I
take it.
Sorry?
Take it there was an old David and a young David then.
Well, I had a nephew, David, who was obviously younger, but they didn't have a lot to do with each other particularly.
Right.
But he just, maybe David just didn't want to think of himself as old. And to be honest, he was only in his, I don't think he could have been, he was late 30s, I think, when he died anyway. So he was young, really.
Okay, so I remember you coming. I don't remember really very much about it, but I do remember, whether it was the second or third time, I don't remember how many times you've been to see me, but I remember that we'd sold our house and we were moving.
In the loft.
So I was in the attic, and my daughter was sort of in my the entrance of the attic was in the bedroom, and my daughter was standing at the foot of the ladder, and I was in the attic, and I was passing things down to her, and the phone rang, and I think she thought it might be somebody for her, because otherwise she wouldn't have probably answered the phone. Anyway, the phone rang, and so she shouts up the ladder to me, and I'm in the depths of the attic at this point, which was very dusty, lots of stuff all around. And she called up the ladder to me, and she said, Mum, that there's someone on the phone for you, a Kay. There's Kay on the phone for you. And I just called back down. Just tell them to call back at another time. And she said, well, they're calling from Hong Kong. And I thought, who would call me from Hong Kong? So I was intrigued. So I actually had to climb down the ladder to get the phone call. And it was you calling to make another appointment to see me. So that sort of, I do remember that. But let's sort of go down memory lane a little bit, because you mentioned to me, hey, I mean, I wasn't entirely a total stranger, but you didn't know me very well. And the only things that we did when I saw you, we were, you know, I was doing my thing. I mean, I didn't know you as a friend by any means, right? No. You invited me when you came to see me. You mentioned, have you ever done work abroad and so on? And I remember saying, oh, that sounds interesting. And, you know, yes, I'd be interested. And then we left it. But then a few months later, I remember the phone rang once again, and it was you on the phone. Have you booked your flight? And I thought, oh, crumbs, you know, now I've got to put my money where my mouth is. I've got to say yes or no. And you'd found out different flights for me, and you'd said you could get on this one or this one or so on and so forth. Anyway, and so it was one of those, I felt I really shouldn't go. But for some reason or another, I was, you know, how KB, you said, you know, sometimes you're compelled to do things. And so, and just out of the blue, I said, okay, yes, I'm coming. And I gave you the date there and then. And I had no idea how I was going to find the money. I had no idea how I was going to do it. But I said, yes, I'll do it. And it was as quick as that. But like you, I remember sort of getting on the plane thinking, I'm mad. What am I doing? I don't even know these people. And even though you tell me your husband had come to me to see me as well with you, I mean, I didn't really know either of you that well. I certainly didn't know your family. Why would you travel halfway across the world to stay with somebody you didn't know? And I remember, I remember when I arrived there, and I mean, you had a beautiful house at the time, you overlooking the ocean. It was beautiful. There was nothing not to like about it. But for the first few days, we were being so polite to each other. It was as if, you know, we didn't know each other very well. So you might say to me, would you like to have dinner? And I would say, oh yes, thank you very much. You'd say, okay. Then, you know, maybe we'd like to go to a restaurant. Oh yes, thank you very much. And you were being just as polite to me as I was being to you. And it became a little bit painful because we were being so polite. And for those of you who are listening in on this, I have to tell you that my friend Kay, as much as I love her, is definitely not polite, and I am not polite. And when we are together, we are the most impolite between us, right, Kay? And so it was really, really painful to, you know, this, oh yes, thank you very much. Oh, right. Oh yes, thank you. Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you. Do you remember that, Kay?
Can't sustain that.
Well,
I don't think I'm not polite. I think we were just dancing around each other because we didn't know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I didn't want to say anything that would upset you, and you didn't want to say anything that would upset me, and you know how that is. But the point was that we'd thrown ourselves into this situation. Do you remember what broke the ice, Kay?
I do. Very. Do you want me to tell it?
Oh, please. Oh, please.
Do you want me to tell it or?
Only if you're going to be very honest about it and very open about it and not holding back.
Good sound effects.
So why don't we tell everyone, for anyone who is sensitive, for anybody who does not like the word fart, you cannot listen to this story. We are cracking up here. After all, this is cracking up. The word fart is a very British use. It's a well-used word in my country. And for those of you who've been shocked that I've now used it on air in public, no, could you ever believe that I would use such a word? Anyway, so Kay, you know, I've broken the ice slightly. So would you tell stories so well? Would you like to tell this story?
Yeah, she does.
Well, I said to Rosemary, would you like to go to Stanley Market, which is a sort of quite a big tourist attraction.
Huge.
Hong Kong. Yeah. And it's lots of stalls and lots of little shops. And we drove there, and we're walking in and out of the various shops. And we came to this one particular one, and there's this, for want of a better word, rather large Chinese sat on a very, very tiny fold-up stool.
Yes.
So she was sort of hanging over the sides, really.
She was I would say she was overflowing. Wouldn't you say she was overflowing? Yeah. And we were sort of, if I can just say, just to give people a clear picture, these little shops, we'd used to go from one side to the next side, and there was sort of like a fairly wide aisle down the center. So down the aisle, popping on this side, then popping on this, still being very polite with each other. Oh yes, this is very, do you like this? Yes, this is very nice. Anyway, we're being very polite to each other. And as we would come into the aisle, the lady that Kay is describing is sort of a little bit further down the aisle. We could see her. She was sitting right sort of next to her little shop on the outside. And we could see her. And she was sitting on this, and she was a very large lady, and she was sitting on this tiny stool, and as you've said, Kay, she was overflowing. So here we are walking sort of steadily, slowly towards her. Sorry, I just want to give the picture. Go.
And as we're walking towards her, she suddenly leans over to one side, grabs hold of a cheek, lifts it up, and does the biggest, loudest, longest fart you can imagine
I've ever heard.
And I was shocked because I'd never seen it before. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I looked at Rosemary and she looked at me, and we cracked up. And the minute that happened, I knew we were going to get along. And we spent the rest of the time in the market in fits of laughter, and for many days afterwards would burst out laughing at this woman.
It was,
and I've never seen her since. After that, I don't think I ever saw her again, because most of the women tended to be quite petite, but she certainly wasn't.
Well, Kay, she probably blew herself up.
Self-inflated.
In my life, I've heard a lot of different types of farting, from my puppies to my daughter to my grandson. In my life, I don't think I ever recall hearing something that was so loud, so long, and so, I mean, it was unbelievable. She gets points for the best fart ever. But we could, every time we looked at each other, we try and be serious, and we were trying to do some shopping, and there were some fantastic things to see, but every time our eyes met, we would just completely fall apart, cracking up, right, Kay?
Yeah.
And I would say that from that moment on, we became the best of friends, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah.
So, so all these years later, what was it, 1988 or something? All of these years later, I mean, wow, that's pretty good, right? And even now, you can see after all these years, I've got tears in my eyes when I think about it. It still cracks me up.
Oh gosh.
So, so KB, sorry. So
no,
KB,
I've never farted like that.
No, actually, I don't fart. Anyway,
Oh, you
I
lie.
But okay, but being a student, I mean, you've seen, I'm gonna say you've probably seen all sides of me, right? You've seen, because I'm a
yes.
Why don't you tell people about, because so many people don't see me, I've got lots of different sides, right? So many people do not see me as a teacher. So what was it like being a student?
Let me just say that when I first came to Vermont and saw the classes and was part of the classes structure and saw how the students were wonderful and great, and it's all lovely and great, good work, good teaching, but it just did seem a tad relaxed to me. Well, because I was used to discipline bar none. And I say to my girls when they were little and growing up with it all, I used to say, I know now, having been in Rosemary's classes, that I can go into any situation and not be flattened, surprised, or overwhelmed, because I can deal with anything, I think. And it's just amazing preparation for life. in general.
because you had to deal with me, right?
Yes.
So,
No, not just you, but what you made me see of myself. So you were the best mirror and the best kicking stick that could ever be needed in anyone's life. And I say that absolutely genuinely, and all my girls agree. We talk about the kicking stick, and it's a sort of a running joke in my family that, oh, Mum, you're the kicking stick now. Yes, well, you will be soon. And it's not a negative thing. It's a wonderful thing. But it's been a fantastic and possibly overwhelming initially before I got my head around it all. After about 20 years, I got my head around it. Yes, it's been a wonderful experience.
So, just so people understand, are you actually saying that I was a very tough teacher?
Extraordinarily tough. I think when I look at how many people you have worked with and how many people I've known over the last nearly 40 years, I feel quite excited that we're still here talking.
That we've become such good friends. We were good friends almost from the get-go, though, right?
From the get-go, we were good friends. So different, so very different. But amazing. Yeah. I have to say, Rosemary did really have to bite her tongue an awful lot and put up with an awful lot from me as a very young woman who was Looby-Loo, a little bit out there, a little bit off the wall. Would you say that's nicely put?
I would say perfectly put. Yes.
Yeah.
And you still are.
Yes, thank goodness. And I think you did try to throw me out a few times, but I still kept bouncing back.
I know. I tried. You just kept coming back and coming back. Not really. But I also think, you had 3 girls, and on one of these, because we're going to do more cracking up, but on one of these shows, I'd like you to tell the story of Jess, or my part in Jess, but not right now anyway.
No,
but I think your 3 girls, I think it's fair to say that they were, on the one hand, terrified of me because I held them accountable.
Yes.
And they knew absolutely without a doubt that they had to behave. But I think it's fair to say, on the other hand, I was the one they came to for everything. When they were in trouble, if they had problems, if they needed to talk through school or whatever it was, I think it's fair to say that they, and to this day, as still young women, babies themselves, children themselves, still do. They still come to me. So we did have that amazing.
Well, you still do have a good relationship with them all, and and even with me, I think. 40
they
years
have
on.
a good relationship with me, or we have a good relationship. Oh, they love you. You are, without a doubt, one of the best mothers I've ever met.
Not talking about me, I'm talking about the fact that they can still come to you.
Yes.
Because you're not the mum. And there's things they don't want to tell me that they'll tell you. And if I'm supposed to know, I find out one way or another. But if I'm not supposed to know, I don't think about it.
So, Kay, now you had your 2 kids who were very young, and when I first went to Hong Kong, those poor kids had to get used to me. How do you think they did?
Well, I suppose it was in smaller doses than Kay's children. So in that way, they probably fared better. Really?
Fared better? God. You mean rough with the smooth?
No, I mean,
I didn't ask you. Go ahead. You're both making me sound like a terrible ogre. Oh, wait, I am an ogre. Go ahead.
No,
No,
I know.
you're not. No, you're not.
No, it's not that. I think they know what to expect and not to expect from you. You know.
Mm.
Right. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good to be straight, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
But we did have some amazing time. You can imagine. I mean, people are wondering, gosh, you went to Hong Kong. But I mean, Kay, we did have, I don't remember how many times I came to Hong Kong, but quite a few times. We had some amazing, amazing times there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
But also when you came back to England, I mean, we have totally stayed friends. And I think it's fair to say that you can talk to me about anything and I can talk to you about anything. Would you say that's fair?
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
I mean, how often do you find someone that you can relate to as a friend? You can tell anything to, you can confide in them. It's not going to go any further. How often can you have a relationship with someone that is as special as I think the three of us have? How rare is that?
I think it is rare.
Pardon?
Yeah, very rare. I think it is rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in life, though, your real friends, you can probably count on one hand anyway. You've got lots of friends who come and go, but then there are not always friends as long term. And then there are sort of degrees of friendship as well. Some friends you wouldn't necessarily confide in the same way, but it's not because they're not a friend. There's just not that sort of same
Connection.
I suppose. Yes, there isn't. Yeah.
Tell us. We're going to go to because I think people are wanting to ask questions and so on, and we'll do that in a minute. But can you tell us what it was that your dad used to say about friends?
My father used to say, "The best friend you have is the money in your pocket." And when that's gone, you find out who your real friends are.
Yeah. So it's not really that the money's your friend.
Some fair weather friends, I think that's another way of putting it.
Yeah. It's not that that the most important thing is your money. It's that the money shows you who your friends are and who or not. I think that's what he was saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that Kay, I mean, KB, I know we've had, I've gone, in fact, for both of you, I've gone to your houses, I've stayed in your houses, you've come to my house, we've stayed in my house, etc., etc. So we know, I mean, my daughter and Reese, of course, and and I know your family, and it's interesting because it's difficult, I think, sometimes for families because they know I know, even if they don't want to believe.
Yeah.
They know I know.
Yeah.
So that can sometimes lead people to be a bit distant because they think you won't know so much, and it's not necessary. You don't need to be that close to know. But I think they protect themselves and they think they are.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
but we all worked through that, didn't we? We all worked through that. And my three girls were very involved with all the healing centres, and they loved it. It's part of their growing up. It helped them become who they are, and we're all happy with our children, aren't we? With what they are.
Yeah.
So yes,
and I think also Kay-otic. And we've not even touched on this, but perhaps another time we will, or maybe even now. We'll see what questions people have. But when I was in Hong Kong, if you all remember the story, I didn't even know Kay very well, so I certainly didn't know anybody else. but I was invited onto a radio show. Can you remember the name of the lady I'm thinking of, Kay?
I can't remember her name, no.
Okay, well, I know it'll come to you, but I was invited onto a radio show, and I'm not even sure how she knew about
I
me.
ran a radio station. When
Oh.
you first came, I put an advert in what was called the Dollar Saver magazine to say that you were available for readings. And I contacted the local radio station to see if they were interested in having you on and that you would be there. And I think you were invited from that.
Okay. So I
Yes.
did the radio show, and the woman who interviewed me is lovely, 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 lovely. And that radio show just went crazy.
Yeah.
1 minute we didn't know anybody, and then the next minute, I mean, when I think back, you practically had to give your house over to me because the phone would not stop ringing, and we got people from so many different parts of the world, because Hong Kong is a very sort of multinational place. It used to be anyway. So we get people from France, from Germany, from people, Chinese, every nationality.
Australia. Yeah.
Pardon?
Australia.
Australia, but every nationality you could think of. And we got people from the French embassy, the German people, because somebody would come from an embassy and then they'd go back and tell everybody their experience. And by the time I left, we were inundated. We just couldn't fit people in. It became really crazy. And I smile because then the center that didn't want me, if you remember, and when I said, I don't charge for healing, yes, but we take a percentage. Well, I don't charge for healing, so the percentage of nothing is nothing. No, but we still want a percentage. So they wanted us to pay, but now all of a sudden, I think, they were, because it literally did go wild throughout, didn't it? In Hong Kong, it was people everywhere were talking about this.
What I found very strange as well is the majority of the people who rang initially were men.
Yeah.
And I found that very strange. I thought, automatically assumed it would be women. But
well, I think
the first ones were predominantly men.
Yeah, I think though that men in many different cultures, men do use people like me or what they perceive as people like me because they're interested in business and they need business advice. They need advice about if they should, expand their business. If their business is going, they need business advice. So I think in the Far East particularly, and the Middle East also, it's amazing how many men will actually come to see me for serious business advice. So, so I think that was why that was. All right, let's, poor Chris has been listening to all of this. You've not said a word, Chris. You've had to be quite quiet. Do we have anyone making any comments or questions or anything going on in the chat room?
Oh, we had all kinds of plays on words when the fart story came through.
Okay.
And then we've had other people absolutely enjoying the giggles and laughter and know that's what to them, how would I say it, proves the great friendship that you all have.
We do.
Yes.
And then there were just some comments which were more attuned to your other weekly shows, Rosemary.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to invite people who are listening. We've got two Ks here, both a little chaotic in their own way, and both like to buzz around in their own way. So I'm going to invite anybody out there who's listening, if you would like to ask either Kay a question, it's either KB or Kay-otic. And if you'd like to direct that question, we'd love to have some questions for you. So All right, so I'm coming back to the two of you. So KB, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah.
You know, we've had the two of us, and I won't say mainly, but certainly a big part of our fantastic life, because we have had a fantastic life. That doesn't mean we haven't had our trials and our tribulations. Of course we have. But Kay-otic, I'm coming to you with the same question in a minute. So giving you time to think about it. But you know, for us, it's perfectly normal. It's perfectly natural. You have sat with me in many situations. You have seen me in a trance state. You have been there when we've had people from the spirit world who have come through me to talk through
Yes.
me using my voice box.
Yes.
You've seen that really, that side that most people on this earth never get a chance to see, right?
Yes.
You've
Yes.
seen all of that, you've experienced all of that. And the
Yeah.
truth is that the two of us, we're just little human beings with, we are given these opportunities which are astounding, which are amazing. And you've been with me also on ghost hunts, and you remember the old cottage that we went
Yeah.
to.
The old
So
man.
is there anything that you sort of, that springs to mind that you'd like to talk about, or that you'd like to?
So many things, so many things. Mainly, I think really the best ones for me, or not the best, but the most memorable for me, were when I'd been in the healing classes for a few years, and we were at Windy Ridge in that stage of your development as well, if you could call it that. And we were given so many fantastic experiences. And of course, the little old woman with no teeth is the best example of Christmas cheer, and how
The
it
little old
wasn't.
lady with no teeth.
Yes, the little old lady with no teeth. And then the Ambi with in the cellar. And I think you've talked about this on other occasions. These things we all knew, the groups of people that were there, we were all as one. It was, at the time, in that period of time, we worked together so well. We were working 3 and 4 times a week together as a group in all the healing centres in 4 different counties over the Britain. And it was actually, if I think back, I don't think many people get that sort of opportunity to work together and to create such a strong and wonderfully positive healing community, because that's what we were. And that's what my girls grew up with. So for me, sitting in a closed group in a specialist spiritual awakening, as we had over a period of, oh gosh, years and years. Well, I miss it, actually. It's a strange thing to say, but I do miss that. And I know that it's it was of its time and place, but it was amazing.
Well, let me tell you, as you're listening to this, and we all know that Grey Eagle is here, not saying too much, but the next time I come to England, I think we might have a group session again, and maybe even some trance work. We know that these groups, we can't invite too many outsiders. We have to be very careful who we invite, because they have to be people who are very conscious of my safety. But Greg is putting his hand on my shoulder. So even though you think you're never going to experience it again, I have a suspicion that you just might. So we have to investigate that more. And that's not fair for everybody listening, thinking, oh,
No.
Can I?
Really.
What's that about? Oh, really me.
It
Anyway,
is a very special and wonderful experience.
yeah, and Kay-otic, you're invited as well. So I'm coming to you. What, sort of, because again, when I think of all the experiences that we had in Hong Kong, and I don't remember if you remember, somebody offered us office space to give healing. And it went out on the radio that this is what we're doing, because this lovely woman who became our friend, and she announced on the radio, at such a night at such a place, Rosemary's going to be giving healing. And remember, we don't charge for healing. And somebody sort of offered the space so that we could use it. And I don't think any of us, myself particularly, I don't think any of us expected the crowd that we had. It was like, I can't possibly give healing to everybody individually, because there were far, far, far too many people. So I opted for everybody in a circle, and we all sat in this huge circle and did collective healing, because it was the only way that I could give healing to people and explain to people what was happening. And you were there with, I'm sure you remember that, because it was very memorable, that what we did there. And you've also, like Kay, perhaps in different ways, you've seen how many times would we be out shopping, or how many times we might be sitting somewhere and you'd see me all of a sudden start to work or start to talk to somebody and give them messages. And so you've been a part of that. You've been a big part of this and included in that. And so I was just wondering, because we all know it's special. So I don't need for you to tell everybody how special it is, unless you don't feel it is, or unless you want to say how special it is. But can you think of any particular point in time when you had one of those moments? Whatever that moment might be, can you think of anything that that you found, that you remember, or it sticks in your head or something,
Well, because I'm not a trained healer, I haven't done that before. I remember you saying I could still work, but you would work through me as well as yourself. And I remember one particular woman that when I was putting my hands on her, her bursting into tears. And I think I was as shocked as she was, really. And that was really strange, because I hadn't experienced that before. Very strange.
So she burst into tears because she felt your energy flowing through her. Yeah. Not because she didn't want you to put your hands on her.
No. I wasn't molesting her.
Do you also remember our wonderful, my favorite, well, I have a few favorites, healer, patient. I'm thinking of Chris. I'm thinking of
Chris,
David.
It was David's wife who, when I put my hands on her shoulders, it was his wife.
Oh, was it? That was Heather then.
Yes, it was Heather.
Okay. She was at our webinar on Saturday, which was lovely. Do you remember our wonderful, wonderful patient? You came with me to their apartment many times. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. He was American, wasn't he? I'm trying to think what his name is now, though.
He was the president of Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And he
was a lovely man, absolutely lovely man.
And how many times did you come and help me with healing on those occasions? And so, do you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to tell people of your experiences? Because, there are a lot of people out there who would give anything to have 5 minutes to walk around with me, maybe in a hospital situation, or maybe to go to someone's house giving healing, or they just want to know, they just really want to, what's it like being with Rosemary Altea, so what's it like being with Rosemary Altea?
Well, it's just amazing, really. It's a privilege, I think, more than anything. It's just a privilege to be there and to see how people are affected by it.
Yeah.
In the positive sense, you know. It's and not only them, but the family around them. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, because it affects the family just as much as
Yes. Yeah.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, say what you like.
It occurred to me, and it's a very simple thing, in fact, that wherever you go when you're working, even when you're not working, because you're never not working really.
Are you
You
referring
change.
to me? You mean
Yes,
me?
sorry, to you,
Yeah.
you, Rosemary. You change people's lives instantaneously. They may not realize it's instant. It may take a little while. And they may people fight against it, but the seed is sown and things change, sometimes quickly, sometimes imperceptibly. But you change people's lives, and the massive responsibility that goes along with that is fantastic. But it isn't just a quick change, it's a slow change, and it's a momentous change. It gathers momentum as it grows and as it gets bigger, and it spreads, and it's fantastic stuff. Hence we're still here, aren't we?
I think what Gregor always says is what we do, because remember, it's not, everybody's, I don't want people thinking this is a hallelujah to Rosemary Fest, because it's not.
No.
I think what Gregor always says is what we do is we touch people's hearts.
Yes.
And in touching people's hearts, we change people's lives for the better.
Yes.
I like to think for the better.
Yes.
Because, wherever we go,
yes,
we sort of touch people with kindness, I think. And that doesn't happen, unfortunately, very often in this day and age. Chris, do we have any questions or any comments from anybody?
Well, Heather is on, and she says she remembers all of that.
Hi,
darling. Vicky says, OKW, you are spot on with that. Rosemary changed my life. Jeff says, truly a gift to receive messages and to have Rosemary's guidance to help us integrate what we have been told from the other side.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Judith says, the Kays could write an interesting book about their relationship with Rosemary.
Yes, Kay, let's do it.
No.
Is it going to be a tell-all?
No.
It doesn't matter to me at all. Because if you want to tell all about me, I'm going to tell all about you.
Exactly, no.
So, hey, are you ready? Because I am. We could write a memoir, The Three Old Ladies. I'm just going to sing that song. I'll come back to you, Chris, in a second. But do you remember, oh dear, what can the matter be? Three old ladies locked in the lavatory. They were there
from Monday to Saturday.
Nobody knew they were there. And that's us. We're the three old Brits, the three old ladies. I'm older than you guys, but still, that's who we are. Chris, keep going.
Well, most of the comments had to do with your earlier conversations, and you're just over an hour going right now, Rosemary. It might be a great place to end with your lovely song.
Do we have any more questions or comments, Chris?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So, all right. So we are winding up. Let's see. We started with KB. So Kay-otic. It's not been that bad today, has it? Was it better than you thought? Do you want any last words?
It was relatively painless.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's been nice.
That's all you've got. Come on.
No, that's it.
Oh!
All right. Let me ask you, would you do it again?
Yes.
next week.
If anybody wants us to, definitely.
Absolutely, right? You're
Yeah.
up for it. Game for it. Maybe not every week, but maybe once a month or once every 2 weeks or something. We'll see what kind of response we get. But I can predict, as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I'll be back. We'll be back. Kay, do you want to say anything winding up?
Just, it's been a pleasure. And there's so much to say, isn't there, really?
Yeah,
40
well, we can
years
go
of
on and on.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we shall reminisce another time. So, all right. So thank you, Chris, for being there. Of course, we're thanking Grey Eagle. I'm intrigued to know what situation it will be where we have a group session and I go into trance again, because it's been a while since I did any trance work whatsoever. So obviously the spirit world is planning something for us. So that's,
Watch this space.
Yes, watch this space. Exactly.
It's
So
good.
thank you. I'd like to say thank you to the two of you. I'd like to say thanks to Chris and of course Grey Eagle. And I would like to say thank you for all of you watching. Please, everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the night. I shall be back on Thursday morning for our, whatever that is, The Spirit World Sees All. We shall be back on Saturday morning with our story time. And yes, and we wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We're not quite Christmas yet, but I am flying out on Sunday to be with my darlings. So I'm excited about that. So, get ready. We should be back next week with something else. Until then, please, everybody, have a very blessed night. And thank you so, so much for joining us. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.